everyone! We are back with another masterclass, and today is a great one. Who is with us today? It is Kelly Wong, a Pilates teacher and certified nutrition consultant from Your Mama Tribe. So what are we talking about today? Well, we aren't just talking today. Roll out your mat and get ready to flow together in a movement session that will support you with moving with ease and comfort as your baby and belly grows. Plus, learn how to nourish your body and baby through food and feel better holistically from the inside out as you make this commitment to care for yourself. The legal stuff. The educational content of our masterclasses is the work of our pregnant and popped partners. We are not licensed medical or legal professionals, and this is neither a medical nor legal platform. The content of today should not be considered medical or legal advice. Instead, it is always best to consult with your specialist providers for any specific concerns or questions, and use the information from today as a complementary tool to help guide those discussions and care plans. In short, our goal is to provide a supportive and informative community for expecting and new parents, but it's important to always prioritise your own health and the advice of your specialist providers. Now, if I can just take a moment of your time ever so briefly, I will introduce myself in case you don't know me. I am Kathy, the founder of Empower and Pregnant and Popped. At my core, I am a certified postpartum doula, which means that I provide home-based physical and emotional support in the first few days and weeks and months of having a baby. I am with you in the trenches, wiping your baby's bottom at the same time as mopping your brow or tears, with different tissues, of course. But this masterclass isn't about me. It is about helping you prepare for the future. So let me introduce our guest. Kelly is the mama of two girls, a Pilates teacher and a certified nutrition consultant. She truly believes that holistic wellness for mothers is essential, not only for herself and yourself, but your babies, your spouse, and your whole family. She embodies this and says that since she started taking steps to love herself first, she felt that she was a better mother to her children. And she is drawn to helping fellow mothers experience how they can do this for themselves. We all know that movement is good for our body, but maybe you're like me and struggle finding the time to go out to exercise or fit in a full workout session. And for this reason, I cannot wait to learn more from her. So without further ado, Kelly, I'm getting my mat ready and handing over to you.
Thank you, Kathy. Yes. So welcome to all the mummies in this masterclass. So it's, as Kathy mentioned, it's going to be an interactive session, a movement session. So I hope all of you have got your mat ready, and we're actually going to begin on our mats today. So let's all move to our mat and come into a seated position. So beginning in a seated position, we're actually going to just start with a little bit of breathing to get ourselves centered before we actually start moving. So you can just let your hands rest on your knees. Feel free to close down your eyes if you like. And just take a moment to notice your breath. Maybe even using your hands to cradle your belly. That's beginning to tune into your breath, into your baby. Noticing where your breath is going. Sometimes if it's in the middle of the day or at the end of a busy day, you might be breathing a lot into your chest. So if you notice that your chest is rising and falling, maybe inviting your breath to go a little bit deeper into your belly. So if your hands are on your belly, cradling your baby, think of breathing into the belly, into your baby, just sending all that beautiful oxygen to your baby. And as you exhale, can we think of drawing your belly button to your spine, and in the process, giving your baby a hug towards you. Let's take another 3 more nice deep breaths this way. So breathing down into the belly, into your pelvic floor underneath you. And as you exhale, think of lifting through your pelvic floor, drawing your belly button to your spine, hugging your baby in towards you. Let's allow your breath to deepen. So really sending that breath all the way into the belly, the pelvic floor, feeling the pelvic floor just blossoming out underneath you. And as you exhale, feel that lift through the pelvic floor. So as if you're trying to draw something up a straw, drawing your navel to the spine. And at the same time, feeling the top of your head reaching up towards the ceiling, going a little bit taller. Let's go for one more nice deep breath here, making it the biggest breath that you've taken so far. So breathing all the way into the belly, allowing the pelvic floor to relax. And as we exhale, gently lifting to the pelvic floor, hugging baby in towards you. And we lengthen through the spine. From here, let's just start to invite a bit of movement into our body. So you can rest your hands back onto your knees if you were cradling your belly earlier. And as we breathe out, we're going to start to tip backwards off our hips. So starting to come into a nice rounded spine here. I'm going to turn to the side to show you in a moment. And then as you breathe in, just gently pressing your hands against your knees, starting to lift your chest up towards the ceiling. Let's go for a few more like this, and starting to mobilize the spine here. I'll turn to the side to show you how that looks like. So as if you're trying to curl your tailbone under, trying to reach the crown of the head up and over. So we're finding a nice C, what we call a C curve in our spine. And then as you breathe in, rocking back up onto your sit bones, we lift the chest, open up through the collarbone. Let's go for another 4 more this way. So just moving at your own pace. Rounding over the belly just as much as the belly allows you. And then as we inhale, we open up and we lift the chest. So another 3 more this way. We're going between what we call a flexion of the spine. So this rounding of the spine, and we are feeling that nice stretch through the lower back, especially if you're starting to feel any of that lower back aches, which is pretty common during pregnancy. This can help to stretch it out. And then as we inhale and we lift the chest, we're creating space. We're lifting the diaphragm off your belly, and you might feel that you can take a bigger breath as you come into this extension of the spine. Let's go for another 2 more this way. We're going to change things up in a moment. As you go into this flexion, just noticing if your shoulders are starting to bunch up to your ears. If they are, then I invite you to drop those shoulders down. So really feeling the stretch coming more from that lower back and the mid-back area, but still keeping the shoulders and the upper back relaxed. And we inhale to lift the chest. Let's go for another 2 more this way. Sorry, last one actually. So we're going to round the spine. And we inhale to lift the chest. And I'm going to turn forward to face you once again. So coming back to the front, we're going to go side to side now. So I'm going to shift my ribs over, away from the hips. So bring the shoulders kind of sliding to the side. And then we come back to the center and over the other way. So we're going to your left and then to the right. And you might feel a really nice stretch along the side of your body as we do this. Imagine you're trying to unstick your ribs, or sometimes we don't really do this kind of side-to-side movements very often, but it's a really nice way just to get that mobility into the spine. As we go side to side, we'll be moving through many different planes of movement in your spine in today's session. So really getting everything all nice and stretched out and mobile. Let's go for another 3 more. Keeping the head level so you don't want to tilt the head to the side. Imagine you're balancing a glass of water on your head. We go for 2. And then 1 more. We're going to come back to the center and then go for a circle now. So going into that rock of the hips as we're doing right at the start of the class. So we're going to rock backwards. And then let's go towards your right side. And then come into the extension in the front and to the left. We're going in a circle here. So really nice, smooth movements. I love to close my eyes as I do this and just allow yourself to tune into the movement. So all these kind of circling movements are really nice in pregnancy and birth. Our babies love these kind of swirling kind of movements. So just allow yourself to tune into your body and move in whatever way feels good for you. So there's no right or wrong in any of these. Just allowing yourself to flow through the movements. We're going to go for another 3 more in this direction. You lift the chest and we circle. Let's go for 2. Circling the body. And one last one. And then we're going to reverse the circle now. So going towards your right, and then you're going to circle the body around. And then let's lift the chest and we go the other way. So then just allowing yourself to get used to this different direction that we're moving in. So just moving at your own pace. I'm going to go for another 3 more like this. And 2. Can allow your head to flow with the movement as well. And one last one. And then we're going to come back to the middle. We're going to transition into our all-fours position now. So turning onto your side, let's bring your hands under your shoulders and your knees underneath your hips. So from here, we're going to come into what we call a cat and cow stretch first, just to get a bit of that movement into the spine again. So very similar to what we're doing in the seated position, just that now we're in our all-fours. So as you breathe in, we're again going to start to dip the belly down. We lift the chest to shine the heart forward towards the front. So again, we are lifting the diaphragm away from the belly. You might feel that it's easier to breathe in this way. And then as we exhale, can we start to roll through the tailbone, the lower back, the mid back, the upper back, bringing your shoulders between your ears. So a really nice stretch for that lower back. If you're feeling any achiness there. Let's go for another 2 more like this. We inhale to lift the chest. Sometimes you might also feel a bit of tightness when you're coming to this extension during pregnancy. So you may not have as much range as compared to pre-pregnancy, but just move in whatever way feels good for you. As we round the spine, can we try to roll through each vertebrae at a time? So we're trying to get that flexibility and mobility into the spine. Stretching out through the back, you're bringing your chin to your chest. Let's go for 1 more this way. You breathe in, dropping your shoulders away from your ears. And then as we exhale, we curl from that tailbone, starting to roll through each bone at a time. From here, we're going to come back into what we call our neutral spine position. So that's somewhere in between the arching and the rounding of the spine. And we can imagine the back of your head, the back of your shoulders and your hips all in one line. And we have a little bit of a curve in the lower back. So we're not as collapsed as compared to what we were doing earlier, but we still have that natural curve of the spine, and that glass of water that was balanced on your head just now, the imaginary glass of water, now we're going to place it onto our back. From here, let's think of ourselves as if we're having a tail behind us. So you can do a little tail wag towards your left. So just a little swish of the tail towards the left. Then we come back to the center, and then we swish your tail towards the right. So just now when we were in the seated position, we were doing the side-to-side movement. So we were mobilizing the upper half of the body through the ribs. Now with this side-to-side movement, we're getting the movement coming in through the hips. So you might feel the stretch on the side of the body, but in a slightly different way as compared to earlier when we were moving our shoulders. So here the shoulders are still staying still for now, but we're going to add in a bit of that movement in a moment. So just 1 more tail wag to each side, keeping the back of your neck long. And then now we're going to add in your shoulder. So as you swish that imaginary tail towards your left side, can we look over your left shoulder? So bringing your left shoulder towards your left hip. And then we're going to the other side. So the hips switch towards the right. You're looking over your right shoulder. So we're coming into a side bend now. Trying to increase that range of movement. So looking side to side here. Really nice to stretch into the side of the body. And as you do this, can we think of trying to breathe into the other side of your ribs? So creating space there. Sometimes during pregnancy, it can be hard to breathe in through the front, especially as your baby starts to push up against the diaphragm. So as we go into this side bend, and we're creating space on the side of your body, it can be quite nice to breathe into the side. Let's go for another 5 and 4. So allowing your tail and your head to lead the way, we go for 3 and 2. After the last one, we're going to come back to the center, and now we're going to combine the movements of the cat and cow that we did earlier with this side-to-side movement. So as you breathe out, we're going to round the spine. So we're going to stay in this cat stretch, so keeping the tailbone reaching down towards the mat. And then again, we try to bring that left shoulder and the hip towards each other. And we come back to the center. We go towards your right and back in. So you might feel like there's not as much range as compared to when we were doing that in your neutral spine. But we're actually really getting even more of a stretch. You might notice the stretch going to a slightly different part of the body again as we come into this slightly different position. Let's go for another 4 and 3. Last 2, keeping your chin tucked. The top of your head is reaching down towards the mat. 1 last one. And then from here, we're going to continue going side to side, but we're going to start to transition back into that neutral. So we are moving through that cat stretch into your neutral, and then we're going to start to dip your belly down to come into that cow stretch. So a little bit more of an arch at the back is where we're going to end up, and we're continuing to go for that side to side movement for another 4 more like this. So sit bones are nice and wide. We go for 3 and 2. And after the last one, we're going to come back into your neutral spine. So we're going to spread the shoulder blades wide. We're going to do a little bit of movement in the back of the shoulders now. So as we breathe in, can we start to drop into your shoulders? Imagine you're trying to squeeze a pen behind your shoulder blades. And as we breathe out, can we start to find that core engagement again? So thinking of trying to hug your baby up towards you, we lift through the pelvic floor, and then we start to press the shoulder blades away from each other. So a few more like this. We're going to breathe in, start to drop into those shoulders, get that nice squeeze through the back of the shoulders. And as we exhale, we lift through the pelvic floor, hug your baby up and in, and we spread the shoulder blades wide. So you can keep moving. I'm just going to turn to the back to show you how it looks like. So if you can see here, it's as if you're trying to draw the shoulder blades, like to start retracting the shoulder blades, like squeezing my shoulder blades together here. And then we reach forward. Imagine I'm pushing against the ground. So keep going here. We inhale to just drop into the shoulders. Exhale, we spread the shoulder blades wide. Let's go for another 3 more this week. And then just noticing that as you drop into those shoulders, is there more weight going to your hands? So when we are not engaging our core, we tend to feel a lot of weight going into our wrists. And some of you might experience this mummy wrist, whether it's during pregnancy, sometimes after we give birth as well. But when we start to engage our core and lift away and spread the shoulder blades wide, we might notice then with that core engagement that you feel less pressure going into your wrist. Let's go for 1 more this way. We exhale and press up and away. We're going to lengthen through the spine here. And then now we're going to take your left fingertips forward. So reaching your left fingertips towards the front of the room, just noticing whether your body has already collapsed to the right side. Sometimes it tends to happen. So if it has, can we bring your body back towards the middle? We're going to face your palm towards the right side. So your thumb is facing up, fingertips are reaching forward. And then as we exhale, we're going to sweep that arm along the side of the body. The thumb goes down. And then we continue to sweep it all the way back. And let's see if we can flip our thumb up. So getting that nice opening through the shoulder. So if you're doing this in the middle of the day, after you've been in front of your computer, it's quite nice to get that stretch through the shoulders. Then we're going to sweep it forward, the thumb goes down, and then we bring it forward again. So a few more like these. So imagine you're moving your arm through water, really nice and smooth movement. So you're getting that rotation through the front of your left shoulder, and the right arm is working really hard to keep you stable and lifted away from the ground. Just noticing your posture here, so hopefully you're not collapsing into the shoulder. We did quite a lot of that shoulder strengthening earlier already, so thinking of really trying to spread those shoulder blades wide, keep your tailbone reaching all the way back. Let's go for another 2 more like this. And then we go for one last one. Sweeping your fingertips all the way to the front. Let's replace the left hand on the ground. Just allow yourself to reset and stabilize. Now with having both hands back on the mat, hopefully the right arm gets a little bit of a break, but we're going to switch over to the other side now. So starting to slide your right fingertips forward. You can reach your fingertips to the front, face your palm towards the left. And then as we exhale, we're going to sweep that right arm towards the right side, thumb goes down. And then as it comes all the way back, we flip the palm around so that your thumb goes up. And then we sweep it forward towards the front again. What we're doing here is to get a really nice movement in the shoulder joint. Sometimes we tend to be hunched in front of our computers quite a bit. And after you give birth, if you're breastfeeding, we also tend to always be in a very slouched position. So this is a nice way to open up through the shoulders, get that gentle stretch through the front of the chest. At the same time, we're also working on a lot of upper body strength, which is going to come in very useful once baby is here. So let's go for another 3 more. I promise we'll get a little bit of our hands in a moment. We go for 2. And back. Let's go for one last one. Strong upper body here. Let's sweep the arms forward. Bring your hands down, and we're going to send our bum to our heels. So if your belly is pretty big at this point in time, you might want to bring your knees a bit wider, so maybe about mat width wide. Let your bum come to your heels. Just coming to this child's pose, giving your shoulders a little bit of a stretch. If your wrists are a little bit achy, you can roll out those wrists as well. And we'll give your wrist a bit of a break for the next one. We're still going to be working on our core and a bit of in the elbows position, but instead of being on your hands, you can have the option of coming onto your elbows. So whichever feels better for you, if you prefer to be up with your hands, you can do that. And I'm going to give you that option of coming down or onto the elbows for a slightly wider base of support, just making sure that your elbows are still under the shoulders and your knees are still under your hips. From here, we're going to keep that spine in that neutral position. Let's take a few breaths just to center ourselves, find that core connection again. So core connection is really important in pregnancy, and it's a big concept in Pilates as well. So with that core connection, it's going to help us to support the weight of our baby, especially as they start to get heavier, nearing the 3rd trimester and beyond. And even when your baby comes out, we also want to be using our core to help us in carrying our babies, even when they're in our arms. So as you breathe in, just allow the belly to relax, allow it to sink down towards the mat. And then as you exhale, think of lifting through the pelvic floor, hug your baby up towards you without changing the spine. So we don't want to tuck the tailbone when we do this. We still want to have that tailbone reaching diagonally upwards. Let's go for one more breath this way. So we breathe into the belly, allow the pelvic floor to relax. And then you exhale to hug your baby up and in. On this next exhale, we're going to start to extend your left toes back, keeping your left toes on the mat to begin with. You might already notice that here you're again starting to collapse to the right side. So if you have, then you take the body back towards the middle. So allow yourself to find that balance first. We breathe in again. And then as you exhale, we're going to start to float the left leg up. And we inhale to tap it down. So as you sweep the left leg up, just noticing, is there any movement in the rest of the body? Ideally, we shouldn't be having any movement. So if you notice that as the left leg goes up and you're starting to collapse this way, it might be that you're kicking the leg up too fast. So we don't want to kick the leg up. Think about more of length. So imagine you're trying to pierce a balloon with your toes behind you. So you're reaching all the way back. And we are trying to engage our core to keep the body stable in the middle. So it might look like a simple movement, but actually a lot of things are going on here. The back of that left leg is working as it lifts up and down. Your upper body is working to help you stay stable in this position. And our core is also turned on to keep the rest of our body in that neutral spine. Let's go for another 3 more this way. And 2. Last one, can we float the leg up? We're going to do little pulses up here. So just a little bit of extra challenge. We go for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's slowly bring the leg down. You slide it back in. Let's all have a little bit of a break. I'm sure you all need it. Let's just fold yourself back. Maybe just let yourself rock side to side for a moment. Catching your breath here. And then whenever you're ready, we're going to come back to balance it out on the other side of the body. So bringing yourself back onto your elbows. Knees are back in the middle. Just allowing the spine to lengthen. So if you notice that as you start to move and you're collapsing down, I know it gets tiring after a while. Let's try to really spread those shoulder blades wide. Keep that upper body strong. And then whenever you're ready, we're going to breathe in first. We exhale to engage through the core, and then we start to reach your right toes back. Bringing your body back to the middle first if you need to. So don't ever have to rush into the movements. Always just making sure you're setting yourself up right before we even start to move. Then we can breathe in again. And then we exhale to start to float that right leg up. And we inhale to lower. So it's kind of like a diagonal line from your toes all the way to the top of the head. So really nice, smooth line. So we don't want to break that line by arching to the back. So we want to really keep that lower back lengthened. Your tailbone is reaching all the way back. We go for another 5. Keeping the leg really straight. So it's not about like bending your knee to bring the leg up, but rather we're trying to extend through the toes. The whole leg stays straight as you lift up and down. We've got another 4. And 3. If you notice that your left leg is actually working really hard to support you, you might then need to shift your weight towards the right, because that's a sign that you could be collapsing to the side. Okay, after this last one, we're going to hold the leg up. We got our little pulses here, little movements up and down for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's bring the leg all the way down. Let's slide this leg in. Let's send your bum to your heels. You catch your breath for a little bit. Just let yourself rock side to side. I'm sure we all need a good stretch now. So we're actually going to go into a few stretches just to release any of the muscles that have tightened up a little bit with the movement. So always that balance of strengthening and stretching in Pilates. So we're going to come back onto our hands again. We press into the palms. We start to roll the body up. And then from here, you can just walk your left foot towards the front. So in whatever way you can step it forward in one step, you might need to take a few steps all the way to the front. And then you're going to walk your left foot over towards your right hand. And then let's just allow this left knee to come down. Allow that right leg to slide further back. And you might start to feel a bit of a stretch in the outside of the hip. So if you feel like earlier you were kind of collapsing a lot towards that left side, and the left side of the hip is working really hard, this is a nice way to stretch it out. So just noticing that we're not just like plopping the bum down. It's not about bringing the hip to the ground, but rather we're trying to keep the front of your hips square towards the ground. So as you hold yourself up here, you might also notice a stretch in the front of the right hip. So it's really important to be stretching out all these muscles during pregnancy, because if you're hoping to have a natural birth, we do need all these muscles in the lower half of the body to be nice and lengthened. And that can help your baby to find their space to move around in our bellies, to come into that optimal position for birth. So just letting yourself rock side to side here. Just noticing how the stretch is feeling, allowing yourself to ease into the stretch. If you're able to, you can also come down onto your elbows. This might give you a little bit, a deeper stretch into that side of the hip. And if you want to, if that range is available to you, so never ever forcing anything, but if you want to go a little bit further, the option is to also just rest your hands down. You can also rest your forehead onto your hands. And this can be a really nice resting position while getting a deep stretch in the outside of the left hip. But always just pick whatever option feels good for you. So whether it's up on your hands, or your elbows, or your head all the way down. From here, we're going to breathe in to start to take your right arm up to the ceiling. So feeling that stretch now going into the side of the body, all the way down the right side into your right hip. You can look up towards your fingertips, and we just take a nice deep breath here. Breathing in through the nose. Exhaling, dropping the shoulders down so you can reach the fingertips a bit further back. And then we take the arm all the way down. Let's come back up onto our hands and knees. We're going to go to the other side now. So starting to walk your right foot forward towards the right hand, and then we move it over towards the left hand. allowing that right knee to come down, and then you slide the left. So just letting yourself rock side to side here. Just breathing into the stretch, allowing yourself to ease into the movements and noticing how it feels on this side as compared to the other. You might notice that one side feels a little bit easier for your hip, and you might notice that another side might feel tighter. Maybe you're lifted further away from the ground, and that's okay. There's always that option of coming onto your elbows or resting your head all the way down. And it also might look different on this side compared to the other. So whichever is the tighter side, if you have the chance, you can always just practice with this movement a little more on that side. So if you're practicing with the recording, you can always pause the video. You can stretch a little bit more on the side that is tighter, and that's going to help you to slowly find that balance, allow your body to find that balance on both sides. Our bodies are always asymmetrical, so you don't have to worry about bringing it to exactly the same amount of flexibility or mobility on both sides. But as much as possible, if we have that balance between both sides of the body, then it can help our baby to find their position in preparation for birth. So just breathing into the stretch on the exhale, that's when your muscles are starting to relax. So you might notice that perhaps you can come a little bit closer to the ground with each breath. Then we come up onto our hands. We start to take your left arm up to the ceiling. So looking towards the fingertips, feeling that lovely stretch and opening through that whole left side of the body. So you breathe into the nose and exhale. We're going to take the hands down. Let's slowly shift the knees back. And we're going to come back into a seated position now to end off this movement part of the session. So just coming into your cross-legged position, let's do a few rolls of the shoulder. So just to release any tension in the shoulders that might have built up when you're in the all-fours position. We're going to roll the shoulders forward as well. Let's cross your left arm over to the side. So you can just use the right arm to hold it this way, and then you can feel that stretch in the shoulders. If you feel like there was quite a lot of work in the shoulders, that's actually a good thing. That's the correct part of the body that we want to be feeling the work when we were doing that movement on the elbows earlier. And then we're going to take this left hand to the outside of your right knee. You're going to take the right hand back and just do a little rotation towards the back so you can look over your right shoulder. You're getting all these different ranges of movement in the spine. It's really great for releasing any tension, especially in the lower back area. Then we're going to come back to the front. Now we cross our right arm over to the left side, so stretching into that right shoulder. Just breathing for a little bit. And then taking your right hand to the outside of your left knee. Left hand goes back. We're looking backwards while still trying to shine your left hip forward. So we don't want the hips to twist. If you can, we are trying to get that counter twist as if your left hip is trying to come forward as your left shoulder is going back. And feel that length through the spine as you do this. And then allowing yourself to come back to the center. We're going to end off with a bit of breathing again and also some birth affirmations, because I think it's really so important for us to start to build in that positive mindset about birth, starting as early in pregnancy as possible. So close up your eyes. Let's just take a few deep breaths again. Just noticing how your breath feels now as compared to the start of the class. Hopefully you're feeling a bit more spaciousness in your body. Maybe you're feeling a little bit taller through the spine, a bit more connected in the core. Let's breathe into your baby, sending all your love to your baby. If you want to rest your hands on your belly again, you can also do that. Just breathing into your baby. As you exhale, giving your baby a gentle hug and lengthen the spine up to the ceiling. And you can repeat after me. I trust my baby and my body to work in harmony for a smooth and easy birth. My baby and my body know exactly what to do. I release all tension and allow myself to flow with whatever happens in my birth. I will have a calm and easy and empowering birth. You can continue to keep your eyes closed. Let's just rub our palms together, so just generating a bit of warmth in between your palms. And we're going to place your warmed hands over your eyes, just slowly blinking your eyes open. And you can let the arms rest down along the sides of your body. And we are all done with this movement portion of today's masterclass. Thank you all for moving on the mat with me. So don't turn off your videos just yet because we still have our nutrition part coming up. So if you want to, you can always grab a cup of water, let yourself get comfortable. So I hope you all enjoyed the movement part of today's session. So now we're going to go into nourishing your pregnancy, which is talking about how we can use food to support our bodies in pregnancy, because that's also a very important part about keeping our bodies healthy and well in pregnancy. I just want to start off by asking, do you feel that it's important to nourish ourselves in pregnancy for us as mamas or for our babies? So is it mamas or babies? All right, so the answer is actually both. It's important for us to nourish ourselves in pregnancy, not just for us as mamas, but for our babies as well. And often, I think for moms, a big motivation for us to nourish ourselves is to give our babies the nutrients that they need to grow well. And it's instinctive in us to want to give our babies the best the moment that we know that we are pregnant. So I know that a lot of mamas, they usually become a lot more conscious about what they eat in pregnancy because of that, even if they weren't conscious of what they were eating before that. But you know what? It's also very important for us to eat well in pregnancy because of ourselves. So our bodies are amazing in that nature prioritizes our babies to give them the best. Even without us having to consciously do anything, our bodies will draw from our nutrient stores to provide for our babies and give our babies the nutrients that they need while they're in our belly. But that also means that we need to eat well for ourselves, because that is going to allow us to maintain our own nutrient stores into postpartum, breastfeeding, and beyond. So let's dive into some key pregnancy nutrients. This is definitely not going to be a comprehensive list because there are so many nutrients that are important in pregnancy, but I will be highlighting 3 of the less common ones. So have you heard of choline? So it's not a widely recognized nutrient, and it's only starting to get a bit more awareness in these last few years, but it's actually a very important nutrient in pregnancy. So you might have heard of folate, which is a bit more of a common pregnancy nutrient, and choline is actually closely related to folate, in that it helps to reduce the risk of neural tube defects. So it's also important for baby's brain development and DNA synthesis. So large amounts of choline are delivered across the placenta, which deplete our maternal stores, and therefore it's important for us to get enough choline for ourselves as mamas. And if you check your prenatal multivitamin, it's actually not very commonly found in most prenatal vitamins because it's still relatively unknown, but it is recommended to supplement with choline if you're not getting enough of it through food. So as a nutrition consultant, I often encourage my clients to take a food-first approach as much as possible. And for choline, one of the main food sources is actually eggs, and in particular, the egg yolk. So 3 large eggs will allow you to roughly meet your daily choline requirements. And other than that, the only other source that comes close is liver. Salmon is also another option, but it's significantly less in choline as compared to eggs and liver. So the next nutrient is magnesium. Magnesium is another really helpful nutrient in pregnancy that can support many pregnancy conditions. So just being mindful that there are actually many different forms of magnesium in supplements, and certain forms might be more suitable for certain pregnancy conditions. So if you do need support with any of the specific conditions, it's better to work with a nutrition consultant like myself to see what would be the form of magnesium that is most suitable for you. But it can be very supportive for various symptoms like nausea, water retention, headaches, and leg cramps. For babies, magnesium is also an important nutrient for their DNA and RNA synthesis. So some food sources of magnesium would include things like pumpkin seeds, oats, chia seeds, almond, and cocoa powder. Moving on to vitamin D3. Vitamin D3 is an important nutrient for our babies and also for us as mamas. It's needed for proper placental function, our baby's skeletal development, and also immunity for both ourselves and our babies. So you might be told that after our babies are born, they need to be supplemented with vitamin D3 if you're breastfeeding, because our breast milk is said to be low in vitamin D3. So a few things to note about this is that our baby's vitamin D status at birth is actually very much dependent on our vitamin D status during pregnancy. And there are things that we can do to bring up our vitamin D levels in pregnancy to support our baby's vitamin D status during while they're in our bodies, and also the amount of vitamin D in our breast milk. The main food sources of vitamin D3 are also eggs and fatty fish like salmon, which also contains DHA, which is another important pregnancy nutrient that you are probably familiar with. Also, the sun. The sun is also another great source of vitamin D. And although we live in sunny Singapore, but so often we end up hiding indoors, and because like of the heat and everything, we don't want to go outdoors to get into the sun, and we therefore tends to be deficient in vitamin D, even though we live in Singapore. The good news is that because our sun is pretty strong, so you don't actually need to spend that much time outdoors to get the amount of vitamin D that we need. There was a Straits Times article a few years back which recommends that sun exposure on our arms and legs for about 5 to 30 minutes twice a week is sufficient to help us to get the vitamin D3 levels that we need. And again, as a nutrition consultant, so other than the sun, which is another natural source of vitamin D3, I also prefer to get my nutrients from whole food sources where possible. So if you're looking at supplementing vitamin D3, which is important if you don't take fish or you don't get enough sunlight, I would recommend cod liver oil, which is a naturally rich source of vitamin D3. So then coming to a prenatal multivitamin. So although I mentioned a few times that I prefer food sources of nutrients over taking supplements where possible, the reason is because that nutrients can actually come in many different forms, whether it's natural or synthetic. And the forms of nutrients that are often found in food are actually the most easily absorbable by our bodies, and they work in a holistic manner in food sources, but may not be the same when you find them in supplements. So for example, if we look at vitamin D, which I was talking about earlier, vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. So this means that it needs the presence of fat to be able to be absorbed and used by our body. So this is why it's found in food like fatty fish, like salmon, which is also a rich source of DHA, because DHA is omega-3 fatty acids, and that enables the vitamin D to be absorbed by our bodies and utilized, which is what we want. We don't want to be consuming like vitamins and then in the end they are not used by our bodies and they are passed out through our system instead. On the other hand, you might come across supplements which contain vitamin D in a pressed pill format, but unless you take the capsule together with some food that contains fat, the vitamin D is actually not going to be utilized by your body. So in such a case, some people then wonder, is it necessary to then take a prenatal multivitamin? So the thing is, while our nutritional needs increase during pregnancy, sometimes we might experience pregnancy symptoms like nausea or food aversions that prevent us from eating the range of food that we would otherwise want to be able to eat. And that can prevent us from getting the nutrients that our bodies require. So it can be also hard to meet our nutritional needs through food because we might need a lot of certain foods to meet our full needs. For example, I was talking about the 3 eggs a day for choline. So unless you take 3 eggs every single day, which might be a bit too much for some people, it can be hard for us to meet our choline needs purely through food. So in such cases, a prenatal multivitamin can still be very useful in pregnancy. And I would encourage mummies to take this starting in pregnancy or even actually a few months before planning to have a baby, and all the way into postpartum for at least 6 months postpartum or for as long as you are breastfeeding. So there are many, many prenatal multivitamins in the market, which you might be familiar with. And many of these require you to just take 1 tablet a day. So very often, these prenatal multivitamins are actually still not enough to meet your nutritional requirements because it's simply impossible to squeeze all the required nutrients into a single pill. And also, as mentioned in the choline slide, it's still not common to find like nutrients like choline in the prenatal multivitamins, even though it's an essential nutrient for pregnancy. So there's a lot more that I can go into regarding supplementation, like choosing the supplements, what is suitable for your body, depending on your specific nutrient needs as well. So this is something that if you would require further support in, you can always reach out to me and I'm happy to share more about it, depending on your specific needs. And then also going into mummies who can't eat well in pregnancy. So this is something that I can completely relate to because I had many, many food aversions during my pregnancy. So I just couldn't eat very well. And for those of you who are going through this, you might be worried that your babies aren't getting enough nutrients because you can't eat that much during pregnancy. So the good news for all of you is that our bodies are amazing at prioritizing the needs of our baby. So whatever stores that we have in our body will draw from that to meet our baby's needs for growth. But so this means a few things. For those who are planning to conceive, it's actually really important for you to nourish and prepare your body pre-conception to have sufficient stores of nutrients to meet your increased needs in pregnancy. In pregnancy, babies can often grow to a good size, even if you're not eating well yourself. And of course, we don't want to force ourselves to eat in pregnancy if we are feeling awful already. So what I would encourage you to focus on is actually the quality of food that you're eating and not so much the quantity. So just eat whatever amount is comfortable for you, and prioritizing nutrient-dense food is so important here, which is something that I support my clients with, from pregnant moms all the way to postpartum moms and even babies and toddlers as well. So in such a case, again, that prenatal vitamin is going to come in very useful to plug any gaps in your nutrition needs. So this is just a very brief overview of the kind of nutrition needs that you have in pregnancy. There's really a lot more that we can go into. I just shared 3 of the pregnancy nutrients that we're talking about earlier. But if you're interested in knowing more, I'm actually going to share some options where I would love to support you going forward in your journey of pregnancy. So I have my prenatal membership, which includes prenatal Pilates classes. So something like what we did earlier, but a longer session. So just now that was kind of like a 30-minute session where my classes are usually about 45 minutes to 50 minutes long. And I do live classes. So if you like to move together, you'd like me to guide you through your form as you are going through the exercises, you can check out my prenatal membership. It comes also with unlimited replays, and I also focus on breath work, affirmations, and I include nutrition guidance in my membership as well. And for those who are moving into preparing for I strongly believe that birth can be a really beautiful and empowering experience, but a lot of people tend to go into birth feeling a lot of fear and worry and uncertainty. So I call my birth preparation workshop a holistic birth prep workshop because we work through preparing your mind, your body, and your heart for birth. So including movements which help to prepare your body for birth, which you can also bring into the labor ward, nourishing your birth through food. So I go a lot more in depth into like food specific for birth, and I'll help you to understand what a natural birth looks like. And again, with the birth affirmations and breath work that can help you to just prepare your heart to have that birth that you are dreaming of. And finally, some pregnancy conditions that I support with through nutrition consultations. I've listed them over here. There are also more that I support with, just that this is all that I could include in this slide. So if you require any further support, feel free to reach out to me either on Instagram or through my website. So I'll just share my details here.
Hi, Kelly. Amazing. Thank you so much. I can literally feel the stretch in my body. I was able to do a lot of that in the background.
Oh, nice. I'm so glad to hear that.
So yeah, it was like you say, you feel the stretch in your shoulders, and I appreciate I am not pregnant right now, but amazing to stretch out hips, in that way.
Yeah.
It's so good to have the little reminders of what we can do when we're pregnant, just to help that nutrition, along the way, just to know that we should be eating the eggs. Sometimes it's such simple little additions that we can add to our diet. And like you say, we might not be feeling that hungry, like it's surprising. You would expect your body to to be
Yeah.
telling you to eat, but sometimes we just simply aren't. So knowing what to eat instead of just forcing any food down inside you, knowing what is the best food to try. We do have a question.
Yes, so Miss Mama asked, during my last visit, the gynae mentioned that baby's left kidney is a little swollen. She didn't mention much and told me not to worry, but do you have any tips on what to eat to help baby? Okay, so this is a really interesting question. To be honest, this is my first time getting a question about, I'm hearing that baby's kidneys are swollen. So I'm afraid I don't have any specific answers in terms of like supporting baby's kidneys, but I would say sometimes kidney issues, I mean, in adults in general, could be linked to things like sodium intake and finding that balance in your minerals. So sometimes like balancing sodium and potassium intake. So potassium would be things like, could be in food like bananas. So trying to increase that potassium intake to balance out sodium. If I'm not sure like how, like whether you're eating food that tends to be a little bit higher in salt at the moment, but that could be something that you might want to consider. And also keeping your body really hydrated during pregnancy. So not just drinking like plain water, but also you can drink water with electrolytes, which can again help with that balancing of minerals in the body. So that might be something that could help.
A question has come through. So someone has said, I have constipation once in a while, and recently my gynae told me to take iron pills, and that made my constipation even worse. Yes. Yes.
Yes. that happens a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
She says, I tried eating a lot of spinach and other natural food and not a fan of red meat as it makes me feel very pukey. Any other solutions? They are at 37 weeks. Okay, so that's a tough time because you are not feeling comfortable in general at 37 weeks. You are
Yeah.
pretty much done and baked, and the last thing you want is to feel uncomfortable on the toilet.
Yeah.
Got any tips, Kelly?
Yes, definitely. So for constipation, there are a few things that you could try. So I mean, definitely the iron pills, they can contribute to constipation because of the fact that it's one of the examples where I mentioned that sometimes supplements can actually cause other issues as well. And because the iron that is found in supplements tends to be a synthetic form of iron. But in terms of, I won't talk too much about the supplementation part, but in terms of constipation, a few things that you can try. So make sure firstly that you're drinking enough water, because if we are taking like additional fiber but you're not drinking sufficient water, that can still cause the stools to be pretty hard. So making sure that you have at least like 2 to 3 liters of water a day to help with that movement of the bowels. You can soak chia seeds in water, which is a really nice way to draw more water into the bowels, and that can help to soften the stools. Also making sure that gut health is also something that is related to having smooth bowels as well. So if you can, trying to take fermented food, so things like sauerkraut, kimchi, yogurt, kefir, these kind of things can help with improving your gut health, and that can help with the bowels as well. Yeah, or otherwise taking a probiotic supplement, although typically I would try not to take like just a probiotic supplement. So fermented foods will give you a much wider range the healthy gut bacteria that can support your bowels. And finally, also remember to take foods that are high in healthy fats as well. So things like your fatty fish, olive oil, fats are actually really, really important to lubricate the bowels as well. So that can also help with constipation.
Yes. And as someone that remembers that particular journey, all of the above, try everything Kelly said, and it does work. Definitely the hydration. I think that's a big constant here. I think it's very, very easy to get dehydrated, especially when you're 37 weeks pregnant. Okay? It's hot and sticky here in Singapore. So keep your fluids up. A question about probiotics. Are they all safe for pregnancy?
So I would say that not necessarily. So it's also, again, very important to check with your healthcare provider if you're taking any additional supplements. And which is why I would also recommend, if you can, instead of taking a probiotic supplement, to opt for naturally fermented foods, like the examples that I gave earlier, because food sources give you a much wider variety of probiotic strains as compared to supplements where it tends to be just a couple of strains. And that can, although some of them can help with digestion, but we don't want to be just having like a couple of strains that are over colonizing our gut. So naturally fermented foods contain a wider range of strains of probiotic bacteria and can be more supportive for your gut health.
Absolutely. Great advice. Well, Kelly, thank you. Thank you so much. I genuinely feel like better. I feel better. So thank you. And thank you for all the advice on the nutritional front as well. I think there's been a lot of things that people can just take away and implement kind of straight away, which is amazing because we don't have time to study this stuff. We don't have time to turn everything on its head, but to have simple things that we can take away, that the pregnant mums can take away and can implement starting today, I think is so, so valuable. And with that, I would like to thank everyone for tuning in and watching. Really appreciate you being here. You are the reason why we do this. So once again, thank you to everyone watching today, and a huge thank you to Kelly from Your Mama Tribe. It's been an absolute pleasure being with you today. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kathy. Have a lovely day ahead.
Bye, everyone.